Well, in 2017, January 1st, I had kidney failure, and I was in the hospital for about, I don't know, 45 days.
Wow.
Hmm.
From the ICU to a unit. It was a hospital within the hospital. It was a place where people usually go to pass away, but it
Yeah.
wasn't. It wasn't hospice, but it was right
Right
next to
before it.
it.
Yeah, right
Yeah.
before. Yeah,
But
before it
anyway,
stopped.
I got better and went home. But when I was in the hospital, I would say the first time I had a doppelganger experience was I was in the ICU. I was in there for like maybe 6 days, and I had a kidney doctor, and she usually came into my room. The ICU rooms are very small, and they have like glass walls with curtains up. So she stood on the outside, which I thought was kind of strange. And I besides the kidney failure, I had had problems with my bleeding near my esophagus from years. I tried to stay in the Army Reserves long enough to get a pension, and the federal government long enough to get a pension. And I had back and knee problems, and everything pretty much I was given required long periods of standing. So I was in a lot of pain. So I was taking a lot of ibuprofen. And when
Okay.
you swallow the ibuprofen, it stays near your uh, upper part of the esophagus before it dissolves,
Okay.
and it kind of erodes the tissue and the blood vessels in that area, and that's where my bleeding was coming from. And the doctors had went in and tried to stop it, but they were unsuccessful, and they were going to go in and try to clamp it off again that
Okay.
afternoon. But that morning, what looked like my kidney doctor came by and smiled. And like I say, she didn't come in the room. She stood out in the hall, and she said, "Good news." And I said, "What?" And she said, "Your bleeding has stopped." And I said, "Great. I won't have to go down to surgery then." And
Yeah.
then she walked on. So when the nurse came in and said, "You're going down to surgery," I said, "No, I don't have to go. The bleeding has stopped." And anyway, they were really upset with me. They said, "Mr. Evans, you're going to cause yourself to die by not doing what the doctor wants." And they wanted to know who told me the bleeding had stopped. And I told them it was one of my doctors. At that time, I was so sick that my short term memory was kind of messed up.
Hmm.
So I didn't remember the doctor's name or what the doctor treated. I just said, "Well, it was my doctor." I had
Yeah.
like three or four doctors at that point in time. Didn't go. And the nurse in the ICU was really upset with me for not going. And then she did a blood draw. And about 5 p.m., she came in and said, "Mr. Evans." And I said, "Yes." She said, "Your blood count shows that your red blood cells are going up. So that means your bleeding has stopped."
Oh
So it
man.
was like, "I told you so." Anyway, I had that doctor for maybe 2 years after I got out of the hospital. And one time I asked her, I said, "You remember that time you told me the bleeding to stop?" And she said, "Mr. Evans, there's no way I would have known that, and I didn't tell you that."